Welcome back to Brawlmaster Unscripted. This is the segment where I answer an assortment of questions, be they thoughtful or stupid. Bet you never thought I was going to do one of these again, huh? Yeah, me neither. So, I've still got a crap ton of questions left to answer, and since I have unlimited upload time again, I'm just going to go through and answer all of the ones I have left. That's right, all of them. Doesn't matter if I have a good or bad answer for it this time. I want to finish what I started months ago so I can, start fresh again. I've still got a ton of questions sitting in my inbox that have been sitting there since like the beginning of 2013, and I just want to, go through all of them. I just want to sort them out. Most of these questions might be one-word answers. Not all of them will be, but most of them probably will. But that's just how it's going to have to work in this installment. I just want to get all the remaining questions answered so that from here on out and for future installments, all the questions I answer will be sent to me, will be brand new. I just want everyone to be able to send brand new questions. I don't want to have any carryovers. So, yeah, I just want to kind of clean up my inbox again. But yes, you can still send questions. This is not going to be the last installment of Brawlmaster Unscripted. This is just the one I want to finish answering all the questions I have left so that after this we can all just kind of start fresh again. I just want to clean up my inbox again, like I said. Of course, when you're writing the questions, if you're going to send in new ones, please remember the guidelines I set up in the first video. I am kind of cheating and making an exception this time by answering all the questions here. I remember I said I wouldn't do that, but future installments will have me picking which questions I answer, as I have done in the previous installments. But if I do need to do an exception video like this one again where I just answer everything, I probably will. I think that'll make a lot of people happy. They do get their questions answered, and it cleans up my inbox, so everyone wins. But let's go ahead and get started here. I have two questions from SBox180. Question number 1. If you could cross over any 2 or more video game franchises together, no limitations on this either, which would you cross over and what would you want this game to be like? I remember you made a Mario and Sonic crossover video that was really interesting. Well, first of all, thank you. I liked that video too. I'd want either a true Mario and Sonic crossover or a true crossover between Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, and Sly Cooper. As you noted in the message, I actually did do a video about what I would want to see in a Mario and Sonic crossover game, but that video was on my old account, and unless Brawlmaster Wait Classic uploaded it, that video is probably long gone otherwise. Essentially, my desires really haven't changed much since making that video. For Mario and Sonic, I just want a game that plays off of both of their strengths. All the imaginative platforming and creative level design of Mario with the speed of Sonic that comes with, as a reward for doing the platforming well. I'd prefer it if the Sonic gameplay was more like the Adventure series, but I doubt Sega's ever going to go back to that. So I'd be fine with the engine from Unleashed, Colors, and Generations, as long as they don't try to do with the Sonic Lost World engine, please no. But yeah, if it was any of the other ones, I'd be fine with that. But mainly, and this applies to the Sony franchises too, I just want a crossover between these ones because it feels like a proper crossover hasn't been done yet. I mean, sure, we've had Smash Brothers and PlayStation All-Stars, but those games don't really emphasize those specific rivalries. Those aren't the selling points or the main focus. They just happen to feature the characters fighting in the same game. I don't want any more Olympic Games or some gimmicky game featuring PlayStation Move. I don't remember what it was called, but I remember it was ugly as hell. I want real crossover games, ones that feature the characters and play them to their strengths, that take both the gameplay, or for Sony the franchise case, takes all 3 of them, and mixes them together. It combines all the elements that makes them great, and creates a product that is satisfactory to both fan bases, or all 3 fan bases. But, I guess apparently that's too much to ask, since we haven't seen one yet, and who knows if we will see one. But who knows, maybe we will. I don't know. Number 2. I know you don't want to answer more questions about television anymore, and I respect that notion, but I can't resist asking this. What are your thoughts on the upcoming movie, the SpongeBob SquarePants Movie 2? Well, you're right. I don't like answering questions about television anymore because, to be quite honest, I stopped caring about television years ago. But you got lucky that I'm answering everything here, so that includes this question too, so I am going to answer it. But to anyone watching this, please don't think it's a good idea to ask me questions about television shows just because I'm answering them in this episode. This is a special episode, and after this, I'm still going to be less likely to answer these kinds of questions. It's just, I just really don't have much of anything to say about them anymore. So I'd prefer if I didn't get questions like this in the future, since we are kind of starting over after this one. But getting back to your question, you know, I'm really indifferent to the SpongeBob movie sequel. You know, I've seen the teaser, but I stopped caring about SpongeBob after the first movie. It's as simple as that. It's not even that I hate him anymore. I remember there was a time where I said that I hated him, and even when I did that stupid little skit thing and there was evil SpongeBob or whatever, but I was a kid back then. I was an angsty teenager back then. I'm still kind of angsty, but not anymore. But anyways, it's just that a lot of time has passed, and I flat out don't care about SpongeBob anymore. I really don't. That's not to say that, oh, I hate him, he's evil. I'm indifferent to him. I really don't care what they're doing with the franchise anymore. I know what they're doing, I just don't really care. I mean, so much time has passed that I just don't flat out care anymore. And I guess this is good for people who, I guess the movie that they're making, this is good for people who still care about SpongeBob, but I'm just not one of those people anymore. So yeah, I really don't have much to say about it. I mean, it is what it is. If you like it, go see it. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to pass. I'm probably going to forget it even exists. Okay, here's a question from Brawlmaster Wait Classic. What were your favorite Brawlmaster Wait videos and why? Oh, God. It has been such a long time since I've even thought about my old account. To be honest, I don't even remember most of the videos that I posted. I remember I posted a lot of videos, but I don't remember even half of them. Going off of what I do remember, though, I generally liked the ones that weren't rants. I liked the ones that were more, you know, kind of neutral discussions. Kind of like the Mario and Sonic crossover idea video. These were the kinds of videos where I wasn't flat out attacking a TV show or baselessly insulting people for no good reason. I wish I could name some specific videos, but I can't remember any right now. I do remember making videos like this, though. It's just I can't remember them for some reason. And the reason I don't like those rants and those videos where I was insulting people just for no reason, I don't like those videos because I'm not that kind of person anymore. I just like giving my opinions as a neutral party. I don't care about being offensive or insulting people, and even back then that wasn't my intention, but it's how I came off. You really can't deny that if you've watched my old stuff. I did come off pretty harsh. And now I just kind of like just giving my thoughts and seeing what other people think, you know? If you want to hear what I think about it, here's what I think about it. But if you don't agree, that's fine. This is just what I'm saying, but you can feel free to say whatever you want. I liked those neutral videos I made because they were kind of the groundwork for what I like to do now in a way. So I like those videos because they kind of helped shape me into the kind of person I am now. It's the kind of person I want to ultimately be seen as when I'm on YouTube. So yeah, again, I really wish I could remember some specific ones. Maybe anyone watching this who's been watching my old videos, if you could remember some that weren't rants but just kind of neutral discussions, you can list them, kind of refresh my memory. But at the time of recording this, I don't remember them, so maybe that's for the better. I don't know. Okay, here are 5 questions from Nathan the Moldy. And I just want to apologize in advance to you, Nathan. Some of these are MLP questions, and you did send them to me at a good time back when I was still interested in the show. But since I don't really care for MLP at all anymore, my answers won't be as in-depth as they could have been if I had answered them back when I was still a fan. So, in a sense, I'm kind of screwing you over here, and I apologize for that. I'm still going to answer your questions to the best of my ability, but they won't be as fleshed out or as passionate as they could have been if I had gotten off my lazy butt and answered them back earlier when you had sent them. So again, I apologize for that. I hope you'll be able to forgive me and accept my answers for what they are. Okay. Question number 1. Do you think King Sombra will ever be revived again, and what are your thoughts on him? I always thought King Sombra was a pretty lackluster villain. I get what they were going for with a non-traditional villain approach, and I remember back then that I liked it, but ultimately he just really wasn't memorable that much to me, because when I try to think of him, I don't even remember that much about him. I remember the other villains, but whenever I try to think of King Sombra, I don't even really remember that much about what he did in the episodes he appeared in. I don't see him coming back, but since I've been so out of touch with the show for almost a year now, watch, I'm probably wrong, and he probably already has come back. I'm probably completely oblivious to that. I really wouldn't care either way. I don't really care about the show anymore, but yeah. If he hasn't come back, I don't think he will. I don't think he was that memorable, but whatever. I mean, I always liked Discord better. I don't think King Sombra was a terrible villain. I just don't think he was that memorable at all. Question number 2. What are your thoughts on Equestria Girls? I remember answering a question like this before. I don't remember if it was from you or not, but I think that question was just more about the trailer before it had come out, and I think this one is just about, like, post-release, what I think of it now. If I am answering this question for a second time, my bad. I'm just trying to be safe in case I haven't answered this one, so I'm going to answer it again. I remember not liking the trailer. I think I answered this in the very first Brawlmaster Unscripted segment. I remember not liking the trailer, and now I actually did see Equestria Girls when it came out, and I do feel like I was right about it, or how I felt about it. I mean, it really did not appeal to me. It was just really generic, really girly, really typical high school stuff. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but I don't remember it being that flat out offensive to me, but I just really didn't care much for it. I mean, I went into it not expecting much, and I kind of came out of it not really, you know, feeling like I'd seen that much. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people liked it. That's good for them. I mean, even if I watched it now, I probably still wouldn't care for it, especially because I'm not a fan of the show anymore. But yeah, I mean, even back then, I remember after I'd first seen it, I just felt really meh about it. I mean, I just didn't really care for it that much. Again, I didn't hate it, just didn't really appeal to me that much. Number 3. What are your thoughts on SpongeBob SquarePants looking back? Plus, what are your thoughts on the new movie? Okay. SpongeBob was a really big part of my childhood. I really can't deny that. I mean, the earlier seasons gave me a lot of fond memories, but the fact of the matter is that he just does not appeal to me anymore. And that could just be because I've kind of grown up and I've outgrown some things. There's some stuff I haven't outgrown yet, like Pokemon, but I don't even know if I'll ever outgrow that. But when it comes to SpongeBob, I feel like I just kind of moved on. I mean, you know how sometimes you have that friend that as you get older, it's like you grew up with them, but as you both get older, they start to change and they get into stuff that you're not really into, and ultimately you just kind of start to drift away from them. It's like you didn't fight or anything, but it's just like as time passes, you just slowly kind of, a space grows between you two, you just change, and you don't feel like you have that much in common anymore, and they just kind of drift out of your life. That's kind of how I feel about SpongeBob. He's so different now that I felt that it was just time to move on, and I kind of have changed too. So I felt it was time to move on, and I have. I mean, I don't hate him anymore, and I've moved on from him, but he is what he is now, and that's just really not my concern anymore. So, yeah, he's there, but I just tend to ignore him. I just focus on what I do like, what interests me now. I just don't really I don't stay stuck in the past when it comes to SpongeBob. I kind of like to think that I've made peace with him in a sense. I remember being really negative towards him, and that was mostly for comedic effect, but you know, any frustrations I have towards the show now, they've really just kind of, I don't know, decreased, I guess. I mean, I just don't feel anything about the show anymore. So I guess in some ways that's a good thing. I don't feel that much negativity. And I've already talked about the movie, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next question. Number 4. What are your thoughts on Teen Titans Go? I feel like the last time I mentioned this show in an answer, I was really needlessly harsh on it. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but when I was watching the other parts, trying to remember if I'd answered some certain questions or not, I remember getting to a question about Teen Titans Go, and listening to my answer, I felt I was really needlessly harsh on it. It reminded me a lot of how I used to act on my old account, and I just didn't like it. So that's not to say that I've changed my mind on Teen Titans Go. I still don't care for the show in any sense of the word, but there are people out there who like it, and you know what? That's perfectly fine. They're allowed to like the show just as much as I'm allowed to not like it. I don't like it, so I don't watch it. It's as simple as that. I mean, I will always prefer the original series, even if it never gets a proper ending season, but at least I still have memories of the good times with it, and that's all that counts for me. So Teen Titans Go can't take away all those memories I have of the old show, so there's no reason for me to feel offended or threatened by its existence. So yeah, if you like Teen Titans Go, good for you. I just don't. I mean, I think I have a friend that likes Teen Titans Go, so, and that's fine. I mean, it's not like we're not friends anymore because of it. So yeah, it's a TV show. And number 5. Curse you, Daring Do! Okay. Here are 6 questions from Master Mario 548. Number 1. Who was your first crush and how old were you? Let's see if I can rack my brain to try to remember. It was actually all the way back in kindergarten, as a matter of fact. I was about, I'd say 4 or 5 years old at the time. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was kindergarten. I was like 4 or 5. I think it's 5 when kids start kindergarten, but I could be wrong. Anyway, There was this cute little blonde girl named Michaela, but I was so young at the time that I didn't even know what love was yet, so I liked her without ever actually talking to her or getting to know her at all. It was a crush, just pure and simple. It was just a crush. There was absolutely nothing more to it. I don't remember anything about her other than what she looked like. I know that's incredibly shallow of me. I only liked her for her looks, but I was always too shy to say anything to her. I was very young at the time. I was very, not really antisocial, but I was very afraid to interact with other people. I was still pretty young and learning how to do that. I never saw Michaela again after kindergarten, so in some ways, I like to think that it was never meant to be, that it was for the best, that I've kind of moved on from that. I never made much of an effort to get to know her, so it was never meant to be. So that's the way I like to look at it now. Now watch, I'm probably going to marry someone named Michaela someday, and it'll just so happen to be the same person from all those years ago, because irony is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So yeah, that's my story of troubled romance. But not really. Number 2. Who was your favorite president? Abraham Lincoln. Number 3. There have been rumors that Rugrats is getting revived. If this is true, and that's a big if, what do you think of the idea? What, after all grown up with angsty Angelica? No, just no, please no. Please don't bring Rugrats back. They don't need to be revived. Ever. Number 4. What do you think of the Last Airbender movie? That is disgusting. I am just insulted that you would even mention that movie. So you should feel bad for mentioning that. I'm sorry, but we should never, ever talk about that movie. We don't talk about that abomination. Ever. Don't you remember that? We're trying to forget that that movie exists. I don't even like calling it a movie. Just, next question. Number 5. You have been on YouTube for what now? 4 or 5 years? Can you tell us your name or home state? Name, yes. Home state, no. Name's Austin. Nice to meet ya. As for my home state, you'll have to get to know me a little bit better before I tell you that. And number 6. What do you think of stereotypes? They're bad? Here are 3 questions from Fallow Skies. Number 1. Have you ever watched The Secret of Kells? If you have, then what did you think about it? If you haven't, then why? I have not watched The Secret of Kells because I don't know what that is. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on everything. Jeez, please don't hate me. Number 2. Have you ever watched any films made by Stanley Kubrick? If so, which one is your favorite? I actually haven't seen any of his films. I've heard of some of them, like A Clockwork Orange, but I actually have not seen any of them. So I can't give you my opinions on them. Maybe I'll see them someday, and I could, but as of right now, I can't do that. Number 3. How do you think of your stories? What do you mean? Do you mean like the My Brother Bradley one? Well, for that story and the one I'm currently working on, it all just kind of starts when I have a small idea. Whether this idea is a person or a setting, and I usually get this idea from looking at art or reading someone else's story or listening to music. Like, I get inspired from arts to work on my own arts, in a sense. And whenever I think of an idea, whether it be a person or a setting, I just take that idea and I think about it a lot. And I mean like weeks or months on end before, like I'll have that thought in my head for a long time before I actually do anything with it. I pick apart that idea for looking for ways to build on it or expand it or do just flat out anything with it. And not all of my ideas eventually go on to become full stories for any number of reasons. Most of the time I just can't think of anything compelling for it. But sometimes I do get those ideas. Every once in a while I'll get one that, you know, I think I could actually do something with it. So eventually I go on to do something with it. So for the Bradley story that I wrote, the idea to actually write the story was based off an old poem I wrote on DeviantArt a while back. I'd heard this really beautiful piano piece, and listening to it really inspired me to write this really moody poem about a boy talking about his brother's old bedroom. And back then, I had already decided on the name Bradley for the little brother, so I actually hadn't decided to go on to fully develop the story until much later, though. Like, the poem was sitting there, and then months later, I decided to actually go back to it and fully write the whole story for it, because I had ideas, so I don't want to go into too much detail about what the poem meant. The poem's still there on my DeviantArt if you want to read it, but I don't want to go into it in this video, not only for the sake of time, but also because it kind of goes into spoiler territories. I mean, It's like it's based solely, the meaning behind it is based around a chapter in the story that it's major spoilers if I talk about what it is right now, so I don't really want to go into it. If you do want to go read the poem, maybe while you're there, you can check out the story of My Brother Bradley. I mean, I did an audio reading of it on my channel, so you can just listen to me narrate it if you're too lazy to read it. Or if you actually do want to read it for yourself, the whole thing is up there to read. And maybe while you're there, you can take a look at the new story I'm writing. I'm working on this new one called Project Kanto. Yes, it is based off of Pokemon. It's a long ways off from being finished. I'm just still working in the early stages of it, but I'd really like some feedback on what I have so far. I don't have a lot of people telling me what they think of it, so I'm still working on it. I'd love to hear what people think of it, but yeah. Also, check out My Brother Bradley. I worked pretty hard on that one. And I'm sorry, I just turned this question into full-on plug my other work mode. Sorry about that. Okay, here's a question from Shadow Rush. What are 5 games you used to love but think have not aged well? 5 games. Okay. Super Mario 64, Paper Mario for the N64, Mario Kart 64, the original Super Smash Bros., and Mario Party 2. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved all of these games to death back in the day, and I still do love them just as much now. They're a huge part of my childhood. But the reason I think they haven't aged well is primarily in the controller. I'm sorry, but the N64 controller has not held up well at all, or at least mine hasn't. The analog stick especially has just fallen apart over the years, and because of that, it makes these games that I used to love back in the day just not as playable. I can't play them as well anymore just because of the analog stick. It's not the game's fault by any means, and thanks to the Virtual Console, this really isn't an issue anymore. But still, I mean, the controller is bad. I mean, if the controller is bad, it becomes more of a challenge to enjoy the game. So, because the N64 controller has not held up well, indirectly the games now just haven't held up well either because of that. Maybe the answer is kind of cheating because I'm talking about the controller and blaming it, but shut up! Okay, here's a question from WildThing302. What are your thoughts on Mega Evolutions? I like them. I mean, they're pretty cool new designs. They're giving some interesting updates to older Pokemon. The only problem I have with Mega Evolutions right now is that there aren't enough of them yet. There are other Pokemon that could really use some new ones. Next question comes from DCats2012. Have you seen the MLP Season 4 episode animatics yet? If so, which episode are you looking forward to seeing the most? Yeah, as you can tell, some of these questions have been sitting in my inbox for a long time now. By the way, I did see the animatics back when they first came out, and I was looking forward to the Power Ponies episode the most. And I did like the episode when it came out, and that's about it. I mean, I liked the other ones too, but I was most interested in Power Ponies, and I enjoyed the final episode when it came out. Okay, here are 6 questions from Pendulum Wing. Number 1. You're pretty fly for a white guy. That's not a question, but thanks. Number 2. Will you make a tribute to FJV since he died a virgin? No. Number 3. ¿Me vas a coger? No, which in Spanish is still no. Number 4. Did you get a tattoo yet? No, and I don't plan to. Number 5. Can you fit an entire chicken wing in your mouth and fart at the same time? Yes, but I don't see why I would want to. Number 6. What are your thoughts on Legend of Korra Book 2? Finally, a legit question. Honestly, I feel Book 2 was the weakest of the 3. I mean, Korra was always needlessly bitchy, the love triangle was a complete mess, Bolin felt so tied up in his own subplot that he didn't feel like he contributed much to the main story at all, Lin seemed completely out of character, and Unalaq was the least interesting villain in the series. I think the only redeeming part about Book 2 was the story of Avatar 1, and that's about it. Otherwise, Book 3 was by far the best. Even Book 1 was better than Book 2. Oh, wait, hold on. There's actually one more question from Pendy. I actually almost forgot to answer this. Okay. Where do you think morality comes from? That's actually a really good question. I don't have the definitive answer, but then again, who does? I like to think that morality comes from our subconscious. It's not really anything that has any sort of physical existence in our world. I like to think that morality is more of just a concept. It's something that we process in our minds. The way we interact with the world. We have our 5 senses, you know, sight, smell, touch, feeling, hearing. we use those senses to interact with the world, and those senses give us feedback to our brains, which allow us to process what the world is like, what we are actually experiencing. And thought process is just so complicated. There's no real, I don't think there's any physical explanation, any real good explanation that completely summarizes what thought is like. I mean, I certainly don't have it. If there is, I probably haven't seen it yet. I'd love to learn it, but the thought process is just so complicated that there's really no sort of concrete answer that is agreed upon by everyone. And there are some things that we think about them, but we just don't know why we think about them, or we don't think about what really is the thought? What is it made of? Why do we think about it? Morality is just one of those things. I mean, it's just something that occurs in our minds. I mean, the decisions the way we act in our lives, we make choices, and the reasons we give ourselves for making those choices, they come from our mind, and we make those choices and we come up with those reasonings because of morality. But as for why we do that, I certainly don't have the answer to it. I mean, I can only guess, and I mean, I think anyone can. And I mean, even think that the people that have been studying the mind for a long time, they probably have a better answer than me, but I don't think that answer would be the be-all, end-all of it. You know, science has really come a long way when it comes to studying the mind. There's a lot that we know about it now that we didn't know 100 years ago, but in some ways, I don't think we're done yet. You know, I think there's still, to this day, some things about the way the human mind works and the way we think. I think there are some things that we just still don't fully understand yet, or that we don't know for a definitive fact as a truth. I think morality just happens to be one of those things that we don't fully understand, that we can't fully define yet. I mean, it's especially more difficult to study the mind because no two minds think exactly alike. I mean, people have different opinions, they see the world in a different way, they have different moralities, they have different senses of it. And you can't compare them and see you can find out what's the same, but not everything will be. So I think that just makes it even more difficult to study. So yeah, I'm sorry if my answer didn't make much sense, but I appreciate the question all the same. I mean, I think that was very thought-provoking, so thank you for that. Okay, here's a question from Comics 09, or Mr. Comics 09. What are your thoughts on Grand Theft Auto 5? I've never really been a fan of the GTA series, so I'm kind of indifferent towards GTA 5. It's not that I have anything against the game, it's more that I just haven't played it yet. It's on my list of games to eventually play, but that list is pretty long so far, and it's so long that I probably won't get around to playing Grand Theft Auto 5 until next year at the earliest. So I really don't have much to say about it yet. Maybe I could when I get around to playing the game. I mean, all my friends have it and they keep pressuring me to get it, but I just never do. I got all these other games I'm trying to play. I mean, sorry, regular guy, I haven't even played BioShock yet. So there's that too. Okay, here are 2 questions from Shadow of Colossus 103. Number 1, since you're subscribed to A Dose of Buckley, what do you think about him releasing premium content? It's cool, I guess. I mean, I don't see what all the fuss is about. It's just special content you have to pay a little money for in order to access. I mean, a lot of stuff in life costs money. I don't see why people are throwing a fit about this. I mean, this is just more of an extra than anything. I mean, it's not like all of Buckley's content is going premium and you have to start paying for all of it. It's just special content. If you want it, you just have to pay a little more for it. It's honestly the same thing as DLC. I mean, it's there, you don't have to get it, but if you do want it, it just costs a little money. I don't know. People will complain about anything these days. They really will. Number 2. What do you think about Rosario Plus 2 Vampire? Watch it first if you haven't, and answer the question afterwards. Unfortunately, I did not have time to check it out before answering this, so I don't have much of an answer for you. I'm sorry, but look at all these questions I have to answer. Please don't hate me, even if I've just given you a reason to hate me. I'm sorry, I'm just one person. Here are 2 questions from Kirby Master Ultra. Number 1. The Kirby series is infamous for having some very creepy and disturbing bosses in the series. Which do you think is the most disturbing / creepy? There's only one boss that comes to my mind. 02. That is all. That one still gives me the creeps to this day. Number 2. Since you're interested in Pokemon again, What were some of your favorite things about X and Y, and what was your favorite new Pokemon that was introduced in the games? Oh yeah, that reminds me, I still have that X and Y impressions video I was going to upload months ago, but I couldn't do it because of all the copyright stuff that was going on. Not sure if I'll post it now since it's incredibly out of date, but we'll see, I guess. About Pokemon X and Y. Some of my favorite things were the music. Oh my god, the music is just so good. The 3D graphics were definitely a vast improvement, so I loved that. The Mega Evolutions were really cool, and I wasn't too keen on Pokemon Me at first, but that mode has slowly grown on me. But this is all the little stuff. I mean, I think what I like the most about Pokemon X and Y is that even though it did enough that felt like it was a new experience, I was still able to pick it up and play the game after all these years and still remember how to do it and have fun right away, because the formula has remained intact that much. Pokemon is still just as addictive as it has always been, and that's a great thing. That's one thing I really loved about it, because I was able to get back into it after not playing Pokemon for so many years, and I could instantly fall in love with it all over again. And as for my favorite new Pokemon introduced, Greninja, and that was before I found out he's in Smash 4. Here's a question from Fitness Dammy. Are there any good episodes you hate of shows you love, and vice versa? Well, it's hard for me to even remember which shows I still hate since I haven't watched TV in quite a long time. But as for shows I love, well, there are 2 episodes of Littlest Pet Shop that I know that I will always hate. Bakers and Fakers and Commercial Success. If you guys ever watch Littlest Pet Shop, do not, and I repeat, do not watch either of those 2 episodes. Bakers and Fakers and Commercial Success are terrible. I'm still waiting for an animated atrocity on either of them. And speaking of Littlest Pet Shop, here are 6 questions from FJV. Number 1, favorite LPS review of mine? I think my favorite review from you was probably on Summertime Blues. I know that was your first review, and I felt that back then, that was when you were most passionate about the show, and that was when you were the most passionate about reviewing it. So you really put your heart into what you were saying and to what you were doing with it, and it was just really nice to watch. I love watching when people have a lot of passion, they talk about something that they're really excited about or that they love to talk about, because, you know, when they're having fun, then it's fun for the viewers. I mean, that's what I like to try to do with my videos too. I mean, I try to sound like I'm having fun, especially with these ones, because if I sound happy, then it's more likely that the people watching will feel happy too. So I know you went on to kind of grow indifference towards the show and just not really care as much with your reviews, and it was becoming more of a hassle than was worth, and that's why you ultimately quit. But I think your first one was probably your best, just because you made it at a time when you were most passionate about it, and I think passion is a really important thing when it comes to making videos, especially when you're talking about something. If you don't have the passion to talk about it, then what's the point of talking about it? That's what I like to believe. Number 2, if you could sing a duet with anyone, who would it be and what song? I want to sing a song with you, and I'll let you pick the song. How's that? Number 3, did you murder the hopes and dreams of kids? Maybe. You can't prove anything. Number 4, dream episode of LPS? My dream episode of Littlest Pet Shop would probably be finally getting to see each of the pets with their owners, because we're long overdue for that, and I think it'd be pretty cute to see. Number 5, will your love stories ever be known to the public? Probably not, because YouTube keeps blocking them for copyright because of the music. But maybe it's for the better this way. If anyone here saw what goes on in those love stories that we've been making, they'd never be able to look at me in quite the same way ever again. That's the honest truth of it. You honestly don't ask about it, because you wouldn't look at me the same way. If you saw my love stories, you would not be able to look at me in the same way again if you saw them. Just don't. They're not on YouTube for a reason, okay? Let's just leave it at that. And number 6, if Blythe's dad said you were cute, how hard would you shut yourself? On a scale from 1 to 10, I'd say probably 2046. Okay, here's a question from Renick Bob Brawl 9931. What is your opinion on Sonic Boom, video game and TV series? The TV series still seems promising, even though we've seen very little of it. With the exception of one series, Sonic has had a pretty decent run with cartoons, so I'm expecting this one to be good, or at least halfway decent. The game, however, I'm not so sure of. I like the idea of a Sonic game not being made by Sonic Team. I think that sounds really refreshing, and I like that the developers are ex-Naughty Dog employees, so, and even with the redesigns, they were shocking at first, but I got used to them. So I liked it. At first I thought Sonic Boom had a lot of potential, but from what I've heard, the game does not play well at all. That's what worries me. I've been hearing a lot of mixed to negative reactions about it, and I'm a little disappointed by that. I mean, I don't have the full right to judge it yet since I haven't played the game myself. It hasn't come out yet, but I'd be lying if I said this didn't worry me a bit. I mean, I'm going to have to proceed with caution with this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it right away. I don't know. I mean, I hope it's okay. I hope it's really not as bad as some people are saying it is, because I still want to try out a Sonic game that's not made by Sonic Team. I'd like to see someone else's take on it. But, you know, I don't know. I'm a little worried about it. The TV show looks fine. It's the game I'm more worried about. Alright, here are 5 questions from A Regular Guy 971. Number 1. Since you have Kingdom Hearts 1.5 HD Remix, what do you think of it so far? Love it. Absolutely love it. I haven't finished it yet. Heck, I haven't even finished Kingdom Hearts 1 yet, but I still love it. I mean, I've played a little bit of the games before I got the collection. I knew what I was getting into, but I knew I would love it, and I do. I have a serious soft spot for Kingdom Hearts. I mean, even though I still haven't finished it, I just can't get enough of it. I still think it's a fantastic series all the same. But, God, I need to hurry up and finish it before the second collection comes out in December. Number 2. Have you ever thought about trying the video game series BioShock? Yep, I've heard very good things about it. I do want to try it, but like Grand Theft Auto 5, it's on my list of games to eventually play. I don't know when I'll get around to playing it, but I do have interest in it, especially with how much you praise it, so I will play it eventually. I just don't know when that will be. I can't even promise that I'll get around to playing it this year. I mean, there are still other stuff I have to play, not even including Smash, but God, this list is just getting so long. This is getting bad. This list is getting so long. Number 3. What show do you prefer more, Breaking Bad or The Walking Dead? I like them both the same. I think they're both very good shows, but I like Breaking Bad for its story, and I like Walking Dead for its action. I think they each do something better than the other, but in terms of just overall quality, I like them both the same. They both have things that I like. Number 4. Do you plan on getting a Wii U this year or maybe next year? Another one? No, since I already have one. But again, old question. My fault for not answering it sooner. I'm dumb. Moving on. And number 5. How should we express the love for Teenage Pokemon to others? I think we should start a secret club for Teenage Pokemon fans. And this club will have a secret password for its clubhouse. And the best part is that the people who don't know the password, they can't come in. Ha! That'll teach them. Or we could just start a cult. Here's a question from Super Trey Gamer. Have you ever heard of the SCP Foundation? If so, what are your thoughts on it and which SCP is your favorite? I don't know what that is. I don't know. There's no joke here, people. I just don't know. Alright, and the final 2 questions come from Empty Space KN2010. Number 1. What is your experience with the stranger denizens of the internet, like Chris Chan, Gyroheji, etc.? What are your thoughts on these people? Thankfully, I don't have much experience with any of them. I've heard of them and what they're notorious for, but luckily that's about it. As for my thoughts, hey, what they do on the internet is their business and not mine, so as long as they stay away from me, there's no problem here. Alright, and question number 2, the final question here, is in what particular ways do you think you've matured since you first became active on YouTube and the internet? If you could go back in time and talk to yourself as you were in 2008 or earlier, what would you say to yourself? This is a really good question. I mean, the only thing is I'm not sure if I feel comfortable talking about how I think I've improved. I mean, I feel sort of arrogant if I say things like, yeah, I've definitely changed in this or that way. I mean, I know I shouldn't always care about what people think of me. I should care about myself, but I don't want to be arrogant and act like I'm perfect, because I'm not. I never will be. I would rather hear what other people think of me rather than just have me tell myself that I'm better now. I'd rather hear that from other people, because trying to convince myself of that accomplishes nothing. But if I really have improved, again, I can't say for myself if I have or not. I don't feel it's my place to do so. I would like to think that I have grown up in a sense. I don't let trivial things like cartoons bother me as much as they used to anymore. They are what they are now, and complaining about it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything about who I am or how I should feel. I don't think about my childhood being better than anyone else's just because I grew up with different cartoons or whatnot. Just because the stuff I grew up with when I was a kid was different from the stuff that people are growing up with now doesn't mean I was better for having it. Doesn't mean that it was better. It's not a competition. I don't see why it should be. I mean, I feel like back when I was younger, the big thing on YouTube was trashing the new stuff and loving the old stuff. That seemed to be what everyone was into. But now I just don't feel like that's the case anymore. At least that's not what I'm into anymore. I mean, I just think it's pretty silly. I mean, I like what I like, and I respect other people for what they like. I don't try to judge people based on that anymore. I first came on the internet in late 2007. Here I am now in 2014. I've been on the internet for 7 years, and in that time, I've seen firsthand the true nature of how people can be sometimes. I mean, there are still genuinely nice people who, you know, they're great to be around. They always have nice things to say, and that you should surround yourself with these people. But at the same time, there are always going to be people who are negative and just so full of hate. There will always be people who will try to break you down or hurt you. And they'll never go away. They'll never stop. It's never going to end entirely. That's why you have to be there for yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to not let any of them ever get to you. I like to think that even though I have suffered and struggled with this in the past, that it has made me stronger and more capable of shrugging it off and not letting it bug me as much. I like to think that the hatred doesn't hurt me as much anymore. It doesn't affect me. And that's important because it was my weakness that I originally had towards that hatred. It was because of that. That's what brought me down in the first place. It's the reason my old account is gone. It's the reason I hate my old account so much. I don't ever want to go through that again. I gave into the hatred. I did a lot of things I wasn't proud of. That's why I don't like to look back on it now. I try to keep moving forward. I acknowledge the past and the way it happened. I'm not trying to hide it from anyone, but I'm trying to be a better person now. And you know what? It's like I said earlier, I don't like to think that I've improved, because maybe I have, but I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I feel like I'm acting arrogant. I'd rather have other people tell me that I've improved than to think I have myself. Because of course, if you're supposed to support yourself, you're going to think positive about yourself. You're going to raise yourself up on a higher pedestal, but you shouldn't always do that. I mean, there are some times when you should, but at the same time, there are times when you shouldn't. There are times when you need to be humble. And yeah, I haven't gotten to the point where I'm comfortable doing that for myself yet. I haven't gotten to the point where I can praise myself without feeling arrogant. I don't know if I'm ever going to get there someday, but for now, I'm just not there yet. But yeah, like I said, I like to think that I've grown up, and I don't value my opinion of myself that highly. I'd rather hear people say that I've changed for the better, and to think that I'd rather have people tell me that I've changed for the better instead of thinking that for myself automatically. If people don't think I've changed and that I'm still just as bad as I always used to be, I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry about that. I'm really doing the best I can, and that's all I can do. But if I have changed, if people think I really have changed for the better, then hopefully more people will see this new side of me and they'll like me for it. But I have no control over any of that, though. I'll just keep on keeping on and being myself, doing what I love, and I'll let people come or go in my life as they will. There's not much I can do about that. I can't change the past. I can't make everyone love me. There's no need for me to do that. So I just gotta be who I want to be, you know, and just let people come and go as they will. You know, you have to love yourself. Don't ever let people put you down for what you like, what you feel, or what you believe. It's important to be confident in yourself, and it's also important to be open and willing to listen to other people, because when you're open and you're willing to listen to what other people have to say, that's how you make friends. That's what people like. But no matter how hard things may get with the haters, you have to stay strong. You can't let them win. You don't have to fight them. Don't fight them. But don't ever let the hatred faze you. Just enjoy your life however you want to. You know? That was a really good question. Thanks for that. I feel like I really needed to answer something like that. And you know what? I think that's a good question to end off on. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. That's all the time I have for now. Thank you for all the questions, guys. Hopefully I got all of them. If I did happen to forget something, then please mention it to me. Ask your question again, and I will answer for you this time, because I promised I'd answer all the questions this time, and it's possible I forgot. So if I didn't answer your question here, then just feel free to ask me it in the comments, and I will answer for you to make up for that. But yeah, go ahead, send me new questions after this. Just if you have already sent questions, you can send completely new ones. Let's get a new fresh start for the next time. Hopefully it won't be as long before I get to the next segment. But yeah, for now, I'll see you guys next time. This has been Brawlmaster 012 signing off.